Hey, this is Scott of photography.com. Today I wanted to give you my initial first impressions of the Nikon D7000. I picked this up from a friend in the convention photography scene for a nice price. He wanted to help me out. I'm very appreciative of him for that. I was planning on getting the D7000, but I was going to buy a new one, so I saved a lot. Probably put it towards a lens, or see if I can manage all of what I wanted. This should help in that situation. But basically, got the D7000 as I am currently, and is somewhat of a Pentax user still, but I was a Pentax DSLR user for around 7 years, really used to their cameras. I'll just give you some impressions of this compared to what I've used in the past. Build quality is similar to the K5, but there are some areas that are not as solid feeling. If you've read about these two cameras, this has not as much weather sealing or resistance as the K5. Things like this door on the bottom are a little more flimsy compared to the K5 one. There's no spring load. It's not spring loaded. It's pretty thin. It does have a rubber gasket around it, which is good, but the lock seems a little weak, so it just locks in like that. Other than that, I actually like this grip on the camera. The difference between this and the K5, this is taller, so with my hands, I'm actually 6 foot tall. My hands are pretty large. I can put my hand on here and my pinky is not below the grip. With the K5, I was basically like this because the grip isn't tall enough for my hand. But with the D7000, I get my whole hand on the grip. It works nicely. There are some functional issues compared to the K5 with this. It's a little bit more difficult to control things like ISO with this camera. There's a button on the back. To use ISO, you just hold the button down and then change it with the dial. That works decently. I prefer something like the Pentax K5 is up here with ISO. So you would change it up here, but you just press it back here with the Nikon. You hold it down and then change the dial. That's okay. However, auto ISO, you have to go into the menu to change it. I think maybe I'll have to read the manual of this camera. There might be some other way to do it. I don't know offhand. But it's just some functional differences that I have to get used to. Not too bad. Overall, the build quality is pretty solid. I like the camera so far. It's of course very similar to the K5 in output, same sensor for the most part. It doesn't have ISO 80, which is somewhat of a negative, but it has the ISO 100. Back here, this plastic cover here can come off the LCD screen, and they're cheap to replace. That's kind of a nice thing with Nikons, is that you don't have to risk scratching your true LCD screen, so you can get these covers. I like how the functional points inside work. You can change them out quickly with this control pad here, and it's very quick. You don't have to go into any other mode. You can be in single shot and then change it automatically. It just works like that. Up here at top, you've got your mode dial. It doesn't have special things like SV and all that Pentax have, but pretty standard stuff here. Manual aperture, shutter speed, program. Then you press this little button down to change the type of single shot continuous, or you can go into things like mirror lockup and timed mode on this secondary dial. Pretty nice, quick way to access that. I found it a bit odd that when you're viewing your photos in the review, you can't zoom in with this thing. That's what I do with Pentax, is you zoom with that. You have to use these two buttons here. Kind of funny. Just a little difference with Nikon versus Pentax. I don't know, maybe some of it's controllable. I haven't gotten to that point yet. But overall, it's a little larger. Some aspects are more solid, some are weaker. It's faster, the autofocus. I like the autofocus so far. I haven't had any issues with that. Something to consider, you know, if you're looking for a new route with your photographic tools, there's always other options out there. Well, I should mention, really cool addition, 2 SD card slots. There's so many possibilities with these 2 slots. Let's say you wanted to put wireless, you know, the wireless Wi-Fi cards into one slot, and then have the camera send JPEGs to that one slot. That means you've got instant transmission of JPEGs to, you know, a tablet or something, and then your top slot you'll just shoot in RAW. So you've got a lots of cool capabilities with the 2 SD card slots. That's just initial impressions. Nice solid camera. I'm sure it'll work great for what I'm doing. This will be my second camera because I'm trying to get the D600, which is full frame. The main reason I'm going to Nikon is the full frame sensor and all those capabilities that come with that. So that's it for the D7000. Just initial first impressions. I will do some type of review in the future once I learn a lot more about the camera. So that's it. Thanks.